Alright, I have to speak loud for this because my mic is pretty bad, and OBS doesn't really pick up my voice most of the time. So, for the 3 people that are going to actually watch this, today I am playing Minecraft, but that's not important. What's important is that I am talking about some things that I kind of sort of realized. So, a couple days ago, I watched this video called Secondary Worlds and Secondary Worlds. It was about all these like dichotomies in sci-fi and fantasy as a genre, and all the different sort of conflicts that define each work in that genre, and what makes them all different, and what sort of drives the central message. Well, maybe not the central message of each individual work, but the sort of conversation that all the creators in the genre of sci-fi and fantasy are kind of having with each other in it. And it reminded me of the classic argument of Star Trek versus Star Wars. So, when you're growing up and you go to school, and let's say you're like me and your mom absolutely adores Star Trek, and so you grow up just about every day, really. You're seeing at least one episode of Next Generation. You know basically every character's name by heart, even though you can barely memorize multiplication tables, which I don't really regret that. Next Generation was awesome. Every summer, you're watching Deep Space Nine. I don't regret that either. Deep Space Nine was awesome. Okay, Star Trek's just awesome, all right? But then all your friends are like, dang, what a loser. You watch Star Trek. Star Wars is so much better. And now, of course, because you also exist in the United States of America after the year 1977, you've also seen all the Star Wars movies, and you also grow up watching Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you think, dang, Star Wars is awesome. I want to be a Jedi when I grow up. Unfortunately, the Force doesn't exist, so I couldn't do that. However, there's always the debate of which one is better. So for the really, really nerdy kids, they'll say that Star Trek is better because, it has all the thinking stuff. It has all the philosophy debates. It has Measure of a Man, which in my anthropology class, we actually watched that one scene, or one of the scenes from Measure of a Man, where Lieutenant Commander Data, he's being put on trial, where the court is trying to determine whether or not he can be considered a sentient being and like an individual who gets rights, or if he's just a machine and thus property of Starfleet who can just be like decommissioned and deconstructed and whatnot against his will. That's not important. What's important is that that's what Star Trek is about, and that's why a lot of the people who like it because it's very philosophical. It's very scientific. It's about discovering things and all that kind of stuff. And the people who like Star Wars, well, actually, most people like Star Wars, except for like the most radically anti-Goyslop people, in which case those types, they usually don't even remember what the term Goyslop means, and they just hate everything that isn't like 400-year-old German poetry that they don't even understand and have actually never read in their lives, and they just want to seem cool for their internet friends. But basically, Star Wars, one of its main aspects, or one of its the key aspects of the central narrative, is the eternal conflict between good and evil. You have the Sith on the dark side and the Jedi on the light side, and they're, waging war, and trillions of innocent civilians are caught in the crossfire, like, every time. And the YouTube channel that... There's one YouTube channel that made some really good videos on the metaphysics of the Star Wars universe, and his channel doesn't have a name. I don't know what country this guy's from, but he has a thick accent. And now, the one reason I'm not subscribed is this man also made a video in defense of lollies. I disagree with that vehemently. I am of the shoot pedophiles on sight philosophy. This guy apparently isn't, I guess. I didn't really watch the video because the concept of, defending that disgusted me. Either way, that's not important. I'm gonna drag this video out to like 3 hours if I don't shut up and start getting to the point. But basically, um, there's always the debate of which one is better between Star Wars and Star Trek, and I think that if you pick one of them, you don't understand at least one of those two. If you prefer Star Wars over Star Trek, you either don't understand Star Wars or you don't understand Star Trek, or you don't understand either. Like my friend Dalton, he's never seen any Star Trek, and he calls me a loser for watching Star Trek. So I don't know how you can do that. You don't know what Star Trek is, and you think it's dumb, but you don't know what it is. And then my mom, she thinks that Star Trek or that Star Wars is, it's childish and it's not as cerebral as Star Trek. Well, that's because Star Trek is intellectual and Star Wars is spiritual. It's an inherent difference. It's the sort of the basis of the universe is that the plot or the unending narratives of the two universes are in a different shape. Star Wars is cyclical, while Star Trek is linear. So when you're in 7th grade math class, you get that y equals mx plus b. That's what Star Trek is. So episode 1 of freaking original series, you get all the gang. They meet each other. They see aliens. Whatever. They learn something. Episode like 50 something of Next Generation, well, Data meets like his brother, and his brother does evil things, and they see the Borg, and then like other stuff happens. Picard has a midlife crisis, and Q shows up and decides to just sexually harass the entire female crew, like he does sometimes. And they learn something new every single time, and they keep going, and it doesn't end. But with Star Wars, it's not like that. You get into that resting point where, the galaxy is at, like, the Force is balanced, the galaxy is at peace, everyone's chilling. Some people are still committing crimes and smuggling stuff, but that's just Han Solo being Han Solo, that type of thing. But then one Jedi decides that he likes having friends, and then one of them dies, and he gets all angry about it or whatever. Stuff like that. Whatever pushes a Jedi over the edge, I guess. Which could be a million things. And then they decide to learn the dark side, because obviously the most logical solution to any problem is immediately just become evil. So then the Force is imbalanced, and the Force has to do something about that. So what does the Force do? It tells the Jedi to go kill the Sith, and then the Jedi try to do that. But the Sith usually, because they don't have these things called morals, they do whatever is necessary to get stronger and to get more power and control over everything. So then it'll be this gigantic war, and it's like a whole big thing, and it can last like centuries, or in the case of the original trilogy, it can last like 2 years. And then when the Force is all balanced again, everything's good, until eventually some idiot finds some recording of the previous cycle, and they start the whole thing over again. And I suck at parkour, so I'm just gonna... Oh, that was a bad idea. I'm gonna go find a different parkour course. I'm gonna go to the build battle. Oh, this is the build battle one. I'm stupid. Bed Wars. Yeah. Don't mind me. And then, so then the cycle starts over and over and over again. Because it's the unending cycle of good between evil. Because evil can't really be destroyed, for the most part. So the Jedi try really, really hard to prevent it from coming back. And then eventually it does anyways. And it just goes on and on and on. And, in that sort of process, that cyclical, view of history and all that, there's, the sort of inner growth of whatever character. If you're playing as Darth Revan in KOTOR, sorry for the 3 people who have never played that and just got spoiled. And Or if you're watching the original trilogy and you're rooting for Luke, or if you're watching the prequels and you're rooting for Anakin, or if you're watching the sequels and you want to die, because I don't know how you can watch the sequels and enjoy them. You got to be like 3 seconds old to not understand how bad that is. Anyways, I digress. There's, it's it's the Hero of a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. The whole plot of the original Star Wars movie and trilogy is based on the monomyth, the hero's journey, which is a cyclical process where the hero is made and reborn, and he has to go and do the right thing and save the world and all that. But then he gets home, it's all good, but it's a circle. It's not that plot pyramid thing that they show you in English class. It's a circle. It's a wheel. It's the black sun if you're one of those people who likes putting that thing everywhere. I think it looks neat, but like there's better symbols. Anyways, it doesn't stop. It never ends. You know, the hero, he gets home, he thinks he's gonna have a good life. Oops. The villain that he didn't kill because he decided to be merciful just started a war, and now he has to go do hero things again and get rid of that guy. You know, Jonathan Joestar defeated Dio, and it's all great, except Dio didn't exactly die, so now he's on the boat, and then he dies, and it sucks. And then Dio still survives, so now Jotaro, like 100 years later, has to deal with him. You know, stuff like that. It doesn't end. It's the same, but it's different every time, so the real lesson is, it's sort of a timeless type of lesson, while in Star Trek it's more of developing thoughts rather than, you know, an unending or a timeless moral that can't be like forgotten, or that shouldn't be forgotten. It's more of an idea that now we have to think about that we didn't before, and it's a big moral quandary and a big intellectual thought experiment and stuff like that. And these two stories, these are not stories, these two fictional universes, they both have their own merits and they both have their own place, and these places are separate. They do different things. So I just don't get it why people have to argue over which one's better. And so next time you see someone saying, "Oh, Star Wars is better," or "Oh, Star Trek is better," just call them idiot and say that they're different and they're both good, and people should stop defending one over the other, because then they just look like soy boy neckbeard man children. I don't know what else to say here, so I'm gonna stop recording. I hope my microphone actually recorded my voice.